Welcome to my channel. I'm Elizabeth Liz Machette, and we are the Astrology Star Sisters talking about astrology and tarot for Taurus season. And I have Joy Vernon and Madam Simon joining me today. Welcome. It's good to have you both back. Looking
Thanks,
forward.
Liz. Always fun to be here.
And we're going to get started. So, Joy is an astrologer, a tarot reader, and a Reiki master. You can reach Joy at joyvernon.com. Madam Simon is an archetypal astrologer, tarot reader, visionary artist, and her website is iconalchemy.com. I'm an astrologer, author, intuitive, and tarot reader, and you can reach me at alightpath.com. So we are in Taurus season, and Madam Simon is sharing a piece of art with us today, and I'll let her tell you all about it.
So this is a digital collage. It doesn't look a whole lot like we might normally imagine Taurus season to look like, but that's because this Taurus ingress is full of Aries energy. And on top of that, of course, we've got Uranus, who has been hanging out in Taurus for quite some time, is given its last big hurrah. Before it enters into Gemini. And so there's a lot of chaos that is starting out this Taurus season, but hopefully things will smooth out a bit as we get further in.
Thank you for sharing that. So we're in the time of Taurus. It's a fixed sign. It's hold, maintain, endure, resist, middle of the season. The ruling planet is Venus, and the moon is exalted in Taurus. We have the earth element, solid, stable, secure, committed, and slow. And the mantra is I have. And Joy, will you share the keywords with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So keywords, we've got comfort, commitment, conservative, culture. I put them in alphabetical order this time. I'm immediately regretting the decision. Finance, loyal. It's loyal. It likes luxury. I always think of Jupiter as being having the money that you need, and Venus as being having the money for the extras, luxury, pleasure. It's stalwart and steady and sturdy. And of course, it is associated with wealth. Cautions are greedy, stubborn, stonewalling, like not the opposite of impatient, which would be patient, exceedingly patient, averse to change, essentially.
Simon, would you like to add anything?
The keyword I would like to add actually is rooted.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. That's a good one. Thank you. And Joy's going to start leading us off, and I want to take this opportunity to thank Joy for doing most of the work on the slides. I greatly appreciate it. So go ahead, Joy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what we've got going on here, we've got our sun's ingress into Taurus here. So it is right there at 000, and that is April 19th, which I think is today. and this chart is for 6:40 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and we set it for Seattle. So here is our sun at 0 Taurus, and it is square over there to Pluto in Aquarius. Our outer planet bisextile, which we love to talk, I love personally to talk about, is now adding Mercury and Mars to Saturn. So we've got that triple conjunction. And of course, and that's still fairly close to Neptune, all in Aries. And the moon and Uranus are right there on the cusp of Gemini. And Venus is at the end of Taurus, but not quite close enough to really fit the bisextile configuration. So our Aries stellium, we've had stelliums the past few months, but they've all been in the sign of the sun's ingress, curiously. So that's been fun. Now we've got the sun going into Taurus, but we still have a lot of heavy Aries energy. So we actually get Mercury, Saturn, and Mars partile conjunction, and they're at 7, and Neptune's at 2 degrees of Aries. So they're all in the first decan of Aries. Then we have Chiron down towards the end of Aries at 26 degrees. So still a very heavy presence and tight presence. The planets are all within 5 degrees of each other. So there's a concentration of that Aries energy near to that Aries point that we talked about. And it was it last time or a couple times, I guess last time. And fairly concentrated there in that first decan. So Venus rules our Libra ascendant and is over there in her second home of Taurus. Maybe that's her first home and she's ruling her second home. I'm not sure how you calculate that. And so that gives us a real nice Venus energy to what's otherwise so much intensity. And we've got Jupiter up there at 17 Cancer, right on top of the midheaven. Just a couple degrees on the 9th house side of the midheaven. And of course, Jupiter is still in Cancer where it's exalted, and it hasn't moved very much for a few months now, although it is direct and moving forward again. It's moved forward a couple degrees from the station degree, but it'll pick up speed eventually. I just wrote Lilith is up to her usual tricks because I didn't know what was going on specifically, but I know that Simon will fill us in on that. And then this is interesting. Over the next month, all between our Taurus ingress and our Gemini ingress, we get Venus changing signs, Uranus, Mercury again. It's really picking up speed after the retrograde that we had earlier on, or last month, or whenever it was. So Mercury changes signs twice, then Mars changes signs, and then Venus changes signs again. So yeah, quite a bit of stuff going on there. And then Pluto goes retrograde on May 6th. So it barely gets to about 5 degrees of Aquarius, and yet again retrograde. It's going to go back just 2 degrees. Its retrogrades they don't cover a lot of territory, at least in this sign. And so I think that's a lot of things to highlight, but really everything is concentrated in Aries.
So Simon, do you want to comment on Lilith and then anything else you'd like to comment?
So the natural position of Lilith, I believe, is actually quincunx Jupiter right now. And this mean position that we see here is at the point of Thales to an ongoing opposition between Makemake and Silesia and Lelia Kuhonua. Try to get the pronunciation right, but I know I'm probably butchering it. Who is also in Aries with Silesia. And then Makemake in Libra is with Logos Zoe. It's a binary. I think there's like a centaur that's hanging out. Oh, yes, a couple. There's 2 different centaurs that are hanging out there as well. I think it's Therius and Riphonos. So Lilith is doing this kind of background interaction with this big, opposition of trans-Neptunian objects and centaurs that is going on across that Aries-Libra axis. Okay, which, of course, Mercury, because Mercury's been picking up speed after the retrograde, is going to head across that and start doing this whole crazy series of overlapping yods with a bunch of other TNOs in the process. That opposition is making focused. Okay. Lilith in that quincunx with Jupiter is emphasizing this sense of there's both questioning of leadership and, of course, rebellion, because Lilith is all about that. But also, how do we lead and stand up for our fellows who may not be getting a fair shake? Okay. How do we express leadership in terms of our own authenticity, in terms of our own integrity? And of course, Mercury this upcoming week is going to be heading right into the trine with Lilith, and, followed by Mars. So she's there, she's doing her thing, but she's doing it quietly. Which Lilith herself is not so quiet, but doing stuff kind of under the cover of darkness. Yeah, that's very Lilith. So.
And for those listening, that if you want to know more about what Simon's talking about, the TNOs and the other planets there, she has a Patreon page, and we'll tell you how to find it later on in the show. So go ahead, Joy.
So here's our main cards for the Sun ingress into Taurus. The first decan of Taurus at ingress is going to be that 5 of Pentacles. And the decan ruler is Mercury, which is the Magician card. Although it's not shown, we have a very nice layout for 4 cards, so we're going to stick to that. And then the Taurus major arcana is the Hierophant. And so it's really interesting to consider that Mercury in Taurus energy, because Mercury, he rules our technology, of course, and travel and transportation. But Mercury also rules commerce. And you would think that Mercury in Taurus, which represents wealth, wouldn't quite be too bad. And yet here we get this one card that means like no money, no wealth, no nothing material is allowed here. The title of the card is Material Trouble in the Golden Dawn system. And but I think for me, what I see when I work with these two together is the fact that Mercury likes to speed along, zip along. It likes to change its mind frequently and change direction and check things out. It does honor boundaries and has, it likes crossroads, and it marks the edges of things. But I think Taurus is just too slow for it. And it just can't get its speed up. And the other thing, of course, to always think of with Mercury is that he is known for being a trickster and being a thief. And that certainly can come out in our 5 of coins here. And his, as a youth, like his first day of life, he stole all of Apollo's cattle and then sneakily drove them backwards so you couldn't tell which direction they had gone. So yeah, a trickster and a thief. But then he invented the lyre because he he wanted to give Apollo something. And then we've got our Hierophant, which does fit the Taurus energy really strongly and really well, because the Taurus energy to the Hierophant adds this sense of tradition, of things that haven't changed in a really long time. It can represent kind of rules and regulations, but also traditions that are really steeped in time. So those are the things that I think about when I think about that first decan, that Taurian energy, particularly that first decan.
And then Simon, can you tell us about the Thoth cards?
Sure. I do find it interesting that Mercury's first act was to steal cattle, because
Wealth,
Taurus,
movable wealth.
well, but Taurus being symbolized by the bull.
Being the
So,
bull. Okay. Yeah. Nice.
literally,
Nice.
a very strong connection to the Taurus archetype right there. So here's the interesting thing, Joy was talking about how the Five of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite deck can, Rider-Waite-Smith, sorry, can, indicate a lack of financial well-being, right? And yet, within the 12th deck, we see this downward pointing pentagram. And what that is actually symbolic of is matter over spirit, where thoughts about material well-being weigh us down. Okay. And so this gives a key to understanding, why here the key word for the card is worry. And it gives us a key to understanding why this can be associated with material distress, shall we say, because what is happening is that Mercury likes to be quick, as Joy pointed out, quicksilver, right? But Taurus, being fixed and heavy and rooted and stubborn and traditionalist, is pinning all of that weight upon our minds. And our minds don't operate very well under those circumstances. We have difficulty seeing our way out of a situation. We feel stuck and trapped. Okay. And so one of the key things for us to do when we're looking at matters of this first decan is to try to find ways to lighten our minds. Okay. Even when, and sometimes especially when, faced with material hardship and causes for worry. And I say this because when I was a kid, I was very good at logic problems in school. And my classmates knew this. Okay. And so there's this kid on the bus who was like, oh, solve me this, right? And I couldn't get it. And I was very pissed off about it. My Aries moon was not having it. Okay. And I said, I don't even want to know the answer. Don't even tell me. I was so mad, right? And I turned and I looked out the window and just let my mind clear and let things drift past me. And in that instant, I had the answer. And I tell you this because sometimes we have to stop worrying, stop going after our thoughts, particularly about material matters, like a dog with a bone, okay? And instead, allow our minds to clear. Okay. Going to the Hierophant, yes, there's all that sense of tradition, what has been around for a long time, what has become stable as an institution, right? But also, there is that sense of the guru, okay? The person who has been entrenched in that knowledge for so long. They have mastery of it. They can give you information about it. But this card also is the reminder that sooner or later, we have to step into our own mastery. We cannot continually be seeking the answers from outside ourselves. We cannot be continually going to others and saying, oh, great guru, tell me the truth. Instead, we have to recognize sooner or later we have accumulated that Taurian kind of sense of things. We have accumulated enough information, enough wisdom, enough skill, enough mastery of a subject that it's time for us to step up and maybe do some teaching ourselves.
Any other comments, Joy? Okay, so the outer planet bisextile. Go ahead, Joy.
So, and we've had this Neptune, Uranus, Pluto thing going on, and Saturn's been involved pretty much the whole time. Now we get kind of this intense, like I said, 4 planets in the beginning of Aries, within 5 degrees of each other, and so, and because the Mars, Saturn, and Mercury, they're all at 7 degrees. So they're right in that bisextile 60 degrees from Pluto and from the moon right at 5 degrees Gemini. And it's all, I mean, there's a lot, it's pretty tight. It's pretty tight. And I think one of the things that we've got is the bisextile with the primarily outer planets is this major shift. It's going from the water and earth signs into the air and fire signs. And it is the 3 outer planets working together. Traditionally the outer the traditions that have arisen since they were developed, since they were identified and started to be used in astrology, the traditions have been that they are malefics, that they are difficult planets that bring challenges. And so when they're all working together pretty easily, we really are looking at this idea of major changes, major transitions, and that kind of thing. Now we've got our Mars, which is that energy and willpower and motivation, but possible disruptions and fighting and anger and frustrations and all of that type of stuff, right in there. Mercury is just right in there with communication and again, travel and technology and all of those kinds of things. So there's an intensity right now due to those additional planets, but that intensity will be related to this bigger, slower cycle of this transition, of this unified outer planet transition out of those water and earth signs into the fire and air signs.
Do you want to say anything more about that, Simon?
Excuse me. Yes. A couple things. Juno, one of the goddess asteroids, is currently applying to a conjunction with Pluto. Okay. And I've talked a fair amount here about Juno being related to our commitments, our oaths, our promises, right? Our institutional relationships, which, yes, that can be things like marriage, for example, since, Juno is the queen of heaven and the partner of Jupiter, okay, the wife of Jupiter, but, also relates to what are our relationships with the institutions of our society. And so I have very much come to see Juno as being about the social contract and the fabric of society. And so that conjoining Pluto is now showing us what within our social contract, what within our society, and what within our institutional relationships is overripe and ready to compost. Okay. And specifically doing so with regard to what we think we know. So I think that this is bringing a lot of concerns about misinformation to a height. as has this ongoing conjunction of Neptune with the trans-Neptunian object binary Boris Cc Pabu, which very much deals with what are the comforting lies that we tell ourselves, what are the things that we accept as part of our belief system, well, simultaneously knowing on some level that they are not real. And, you know, all of these outer planets, of course, move very slowly. As do the trans-Neptunian objects that I've been talking about. And so they relate to generational matters, but they have an impact on each of us individually, particularly through the interactions with the personal planets. And so, you know, Venus is heading into that conjunction with Uranus, right? That is a personal planet heading into conjunction with an outer planet in the sign that she rules. And then she's going to kind of lead the way into Gemini before Uranus switches into Gemini. Okay. But that may shake up a lot of our relationships again. And, you know, that's going to have, among other things, we're going to have Venus moving into that kind of trine, a more firm trine position with Juno, who will be coming off of the conjunction with Pluto, right? So I really think it's, among other things, this bisextile is regularly confronting us with both those the generational, society-wide concerns that these outer planets highlight, but also we keep having personal planets interact with them. We just had Mercury and Mars cross over Neptune within the bisextile. And so even though, yes, these are big outer planet transcendental or transpersonal, transpersonal society-wide, worldwide concerns, each of us individually gets some measure of personal effect from this, right? So this is very much an example of the saying that the personal is political, right? Or in this case, the political comes home and becomes personal.
Thank you. Joy, do you want to add anything else?
Now let's look at the cards.
Go ahead.
So this was, it took me a little bit to get these arranged and to make sense out of them. And so what I did is color coded them with the outline, the border color. And I made the three outer planets larger, and then the other planets smaller. So the Hanged Man is our Neptune, and that is, and then the Fool is Uranus, and Judgment card is Pluto. And again, you know, like I said, I tried a few different ways of arranging these, and there might have been something better, but this is the best I could come up with. The Fool and Judgment I wanted to emphasize as being trine to each other, whereas the Hanged Man or Neptune is in the bisextile relationship. Maybe I could have put it, I couldn't really center it because there's the wrong number of cards to work with. So anyway, but yeah, the Neptune is kind of the pivot point of the configuration. And that is the planet that is conjoined with our Mercury, Saturn, and Mars, all at 7 degrees. Neptune's at 2, and the other 3 are at 7 of Aries. And so for me, especially in terms of what am I feeling right now? What's going on right now? I think a lot of people are feeling this Aries energy. So we have Mercury, the Magician, Saturn, the World, and Mars, the Tower. And you can just take one look at that combination of factors and be like, whoa, that's intense. So we've got if you set the Fool aside, we've got Magician as card 1, and we've got the World as card 21, beginning and ending, and then and then how does it all resolve? The Tower, it resolves in some kind of collapse. And so there's there's a lot of intensity going on here. It really feels like that Magician always wants to bring things into being, and the World very much wants to step through that wreath into something, a certain completion, but a it's a liminal space. It's a completion of one thing and an entering of another thing. And then we get that collapse that's going on along with that. And so the idea of big change going on, the idea of, and of course, we always try to keep everything personal in this one, but you can't. It's hard to not mention. And by the way, we're in a war, and there's Neptune is oil, and some of these other things. But even on a very personal level, there is a sense of things that are changing, which Taurus hates. Our general position right now is that we don't want to change, and yet there's this intensity of change that's happening around us, this intensity of transitioning, of moving through this liminal space into something new. And then we've got our Fool over there, which just happened. Now the moon moves very quickly, so it was a timed chart. So 5 degrees there of Gemini is where our moon was. Maybe I should have given up on the moon and just put Venus in there. That would have been the Empress card. But the moon is the one, when you ask the computer, what is this bisextile? It counted the moon and it didn't count Venus. So the moon is all about change. That's pretty much what it's here to teach us, is the ebb and flow of life. It is the constant growing into visibility and fading out of visibility. It's the tides. It's this constant sense of change, of hiding, of hiding and going away and hiding and then coming out again. And that's there with the Fool. So it's giving us this sense of this very I'm gonna say shifty. Now that I brought the Fool into it, shifty might be kind of a good way of looking at it, kind of shifting, but perhaps in a shifty manner, bringing that energy to these new beginnings. That the Fool is at the edge of that cliff. Like, what's he jumping into? Sometimes we can't really know until we do it and see what happens. And then, Pluto stands alone, but it's calling us forth into an enormous shift and evolution. So a lot of intensity, and because we're in Taurus, we don't want the change, and yet we're being asked and called into it. So very, very challenging energies, and that might explain why even last month you might have felt very motivated and kind of excited, and all of a sudden this month, at this time now, the month of Taurus, starting now and going forward, it might feel like, I don't know if I really want to do those changes. This might disrupt things too much. I just want to hold on. So yeah, it can be hard.
Simon.
Okay. Some things that I'm thinking about as a result of what Joy just said, but also connected to how I see these cards. I'm going to start with that Priestess, because we just had 2 days ago a new moon in Aries. a new moon that was conjoining Chiron and Eris, was also square the asteroid Eros. Okay. And we can look at, hard aspects like a square, but also like a conjunction, like this triple conjunction that's happening on the same day of this ingress. We can look at these, we can certainly look at them as like, oh, they're challenges, but we can also look at them as stimulation. Okay. And that new moon having been square Eros and conjoining Chiron and Eris was very much a reminder of the ways in which the things that we have been hurt by, the ways we felt challenged, the ways we felt weakened, the ways we have struggled, nonetheless are reminders of life, of vitality. Okay. They stir us out of torpor. Okay. They keep us from getting too complacent. And moving into Taurus, there can be this tendency to, I just want to, hide, ostrich. I do not see, I do not hear. I just want to be in my cozy, safe space. And the moon just went through those last degrees of Aries from that new moon through Taurus, the sign of exaltation, but also a sign of, again, cozy up and have your good food and drink and don't budge from home. Okay. And now has, done this crossing over Uranus and stepping into Gemini and moving forward into something new, into a greater sense of liberation and vitality. Okay. So I mention all of that because that new moon that we just had, and now the moon heading into further into Gemini, is like a herald. Okay. Is paving the way for what others are going to do. Like I mentioned before, Venus and Uranus are both going to head into Gemini during this season. Okay. And as part of that bisextile, Joy was talking about the Hanged Man. Okay. And the Hanged Man, representing Neptune can represent what is our vision. Okay. Now, Neptune can blur vision. Neptune can make it overly romantic or glamorized. There can be a sense of deception, especially with Mercury hanging out with the Mars and Saturn right there. But there is also this reminder of the need to see things in a different way. Literally, the world is turned upside down on its head. We're now looking from like dangling in this weird position. And what can we see from down here? What can we see about the ways in which both our personal interactions with society and society as a whole needs to change? Okay. The Hanged Man can definitely represent a feeling of helplessness in the face of giant cosmic forces that we may not easily understand with our little individual human selves. Okay. And yet there is this kind of profundity to it, right? This sense of okay, it's time for me to, as some folks say, let go and let God, to recognize that there are these big forces at work, and we as individuals don't necessarily have all of the answers, but we can allow our experiences to instruct us in ways that help us to reinvent ourselves, and in the process have a positive impact on our society as it reinvents itself. I was recently listening to Steve Judd, okay, and he was talking about, I think that this particular triple conjunction of Mercury and Mars and Saturn is a lot more internal than I'd previously given it credit for. Yes, it's operating within this outer planet bisextile, sure, but Aries is a very personal sign, right? It's all about our identity. And as we're moving into Taurus season with this massive Aries signature at the beginning of it, it is, there is this big question. Who am I now in the thick of all of this stuff that's going on this bigger level? Who am I choosing to be? Okay, that is very much the Magus, who is, kind of juggling all of the emblems of the elements, all of the suits of the tarot, trying to see, what am I working with? Okay, who have I been? That is, of course, Saturn, or the world, the universe. Okay, how far have I come? How has that defined me? And what am I willing to let go of as I step through that portal, as I move into a new beginning? But what will also endure? Because Saturn does relate to what lasts. Okay, what can go the distance despite hardship, despite the challenges of reality, quote unquote. Okay, and finally, that Mars there. Who are we in the face of difficulty, confusion, destruction? Yes, but also, who is Mars? Omari Martin says Mars, when Mars is doing what he's supposed to be doing, is like a good bodyguard by our side. He helps us get what we want and avoid what we don't want. And so, we may not have a whole lot of answers right now, but this moment is being given to us as an opportunity to do the self-inquiry that we see with the Aeon, with the Judgment card, okay? To look at the deeper patterns within our own lives, but then how are they interconnected with that fabric of society that I mentioned with the Juno-Pluto conjunction going on, okay? Who am I within that context? What are the patterns that I have been operating under, often unconsciously? And how can I more consciously move forward in alignment with spirit? We see the Hebrew letter Shin at the bottom of the Aeon card representing spirit. Okay. And then that goes back to where I started with that new moon that was square arrows. Mm-hmm. How do I find the vitality in all of this? How do I reaffirm my life so that as I move into Taurus season, and yes, I'm going to have to deal with material matters, okay, but how do I find that zest for life and the ways in which I can make better use of my experience of material reality to reflect the spirit within?
Thank you, Joy. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay. Go ahead, Joy, with the planets in the decan.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be fun to look at, I always check every month, and if we've got a few planets that are in their own decan, I always like to point it out, and I think we do next month too. So we've got Mars in the first decan of Aries, which it rules from April 9th through April 21st. So it's been there obviously, and will just be there a couple more days, but it is there right now. Mercury is going to be in Taurus, in the first decan of Taurus, from May 2nd to May 7th. And then Venus, which is currently in Taurus, but is going to zip through Gemini and then go into Cancer before the sun changes signs again. That's going to end up in Cancer 1 from May 18th through May 26th. And I think that it just barely gets into Cancer before our sun changes into Gemini, but it does enter that decan. And so, of course, our Mars in Aries 1 is going to be that 2 of Wands. Excuse me, the Mercury in Taurus 1 is the 5 of Pentacles, which we did talk about a little bit. And of course, the 2 of Wands we talked about last month. And Venus in Cancer 1 is going to be the 2 of Cups. So it is interesting that it's all things in the first decan. When we're talking about big changes and big shifts, we get these first decan energies going on. I think it's still an odd kind of sequence to me, going from the 2 of Wands with its desire for growth and expansion, the questioning of, do I have enough? Should I explore? Should I gain more? Then the 5 of Pentacles, which is, not having, the way I look at it with that, not having enough materially, not having your needs met. Although I do think that card can have a positive expression for spiritual connection, because it is near a church, and assumedly those people are heading to the church for soup supper, or maybe a cot for the night or something like that. So hopefully they are getting their needs met. They're on the move, they're walking, so they very well could be heading around to the front door there to go in. And it's traditional for a Catholic church to have the door open at all times, so that people can come in and get safe and get warm, or to pray and all those other things. But it's considered to usually have an open door. And then it's like, so we've got like our kind of the Aries identity, but also like, I want more, I want something else. What is it that I want? Energy of the 2 of Wands. We have, what are our basic needs? And then we go into the emotional component in that 2 of Cups. It's like, how can I share with others? How can I connect with others? How can I deepen my relationships? So really, kind of my mind, body, spirit is kind of being activated here.
Simon.
Okay, so right, we are starting that we're this ingress itself is starting from that Mars in Aries standpoint, that dominion card, that sense of what is mine? Who am I? Am I in my place of power? Obviously. I'm, Mars here is domiciled, right? And is the final dispositor for a whole bunch of planets right now. Okay. So Mars is kind of the big cheese at the moment, but what does come with that, are the risks of, being too Mars in Aries, too much impulsiveness, too much temper. And so we see here these Purba demon daggers from Tibet that are reminding us that the first and foremost battle, the first and foremost war to wage is not against others, but against the demons within ourselves, against whatever it is within ourselves that is, sort of cluttering up our sense of self with things that are not actually helpful, that do not actually not only get us what we want, but again, protect us from what we don't want. Okay. And so to my mind, I actually see this as like kind of that we are beginning from a spirit place, from that standpoint of the spiritual warrior, but specifically with regard to our identities. Who are we? Okay. Am I walking my talk? That is very much this triple conjunction is, am I walking my talk? And so we start there. We're then going into that place of Mercury and Taurus, that worry, yes, but also, again, we can see with Taurus is known for being, a pretty stubborn sign, can be immovable, but within that immovability, there can be this stillness that can help to center us, that can help to remind us that, if we're caught up in our material stuff, in fussing over our material stuff, it isn't going to be fun, right? But if we allow ourselves to be in that space of groundedness and allowing our thoughts to be stilled by being practical, that can actually be a helpful way for us to manage Taurus season. Okay. Yes, it's not looking like a kindly image here, right? That matter over spirit of the downward pointing pentagram. But at the same time, sometimes, again, just like with the Hanged Man, sometimes we need to just, we cannot solve all the problems through our logic here, right? And we have to get still and grounded and embodied and fully feel what it is to be beings in a material world. Okay. Whether or not we like the shape of that. Okay. But then we come out of that into this Venus in Cancer, this Two of Cups. Cancer is very much about what is safe space, what is emotionally safe space. And I think that's a really lovely follow-up to that Five of Pentacles. Okay. Venus at her core, yes, she's very much about love, relationships, also what is beautiful and pleasurable, but at her core, she is about value and values. What is your sense of self-worth? Okay. And what are the values that we share with other people? Okay, that connect us. And so Venus in Cancer, yes, we certainly have that keyword of love, but part of that love is that sense of emotional safety, and it's shared emotional safety, right? It is not isolating. And for a lot of people, I think, the Aries stellium has been isolating, right? It has been, oh my goodness, there's all this stuff bearing down on me singularly, right? Us as individuals, trying to suss out who are we in the face of so much challenge. And this Venus in Cancer is the reminder there are others walking the path beside you. There are others with whom you can share what you feel and find some measure of emotional safety and security that can help you face whatever it is that we all have to face ahead.
Thank you. Any other comment, Joy? So it's time for our random card draws.
Yeah.
And I want to take this opportunity while you guys are getting your cards out and shuffling to thank everybody that's been watching live today and those that come back and watch at a future time. We appreciate all your support, and give us a like and subscribe. And we're just going to take a moment while Simon and Joy select their cards.
Well, I pulled the Hierophant. So it's like Taurus is not complicated. Taurus is pretty straightforward. It's like, how can I use this energy? Use it in the way that it is meant to be used. I am using the Verdance Tarot, which is the newest one from the creator of the Shadowscapes Tarot, Stephanie Puimoon Law. And it is absolutely gorgeous, as you can see here. I don't know if that's going to focus very well, but we've got an elephant there on top of kind of a purple wall with a tree behind it, and a bright yellow globe above, assumedly the sun or moon. And the elephant's got, I don't know if you can see it. The elephant's got a little baby elephant holding its tail there at the back, as they walk under this amazing tree. And they're over elephant graveyard. You can see the skull down there at the bottom. And elephants are known for their memories. And one of the unique things that I have heard is that they will remember where ancestors have died so that they can return to that graveyard. I think for, if they're feeling sick or know that they're ready to die or something, they go back. There's elephant graveyards. And that brings out that sense of tradition. It brings out that sense of connection through the ages. And so there's just a lot of it's got the roots, which that was one of the keywords that Simon gave us for Taurus, is rooted. And we definitely have those roots going down into the ground. So staying rooted, staying grounded, remembering, tying into ancestors, especially when things are feeling up in the air, things are feeling threatened or challenging, frustrated, that kind of stuff. It's like, what is not just what is my immediate need, but what is my long held purpose? What is the energy that is coming from the past and from what created me, and that I am carrying forward into the future generations? How am I linked past into future? So really, really nice Taurian card to interrupt our Aries frustrations.
Thank you, Joy. Are you ready, Simon?
So the card I pulled is the Four of Wands, but it's reversed. Okay. And this is Venus in Aries with the keyword of completion. Okay. So, we are still currently in a Venus in Taurus space, right? Where she is in her power. But when she is in Aries, she's considered to be in detriment, right? She does not have the resources that she's used to operating with. And so she has to get creative. She has to do things differently than she is used to doing. When I see this reversed, it's kind of interesting within this context. Remember I said that her keyword here is completion. This card often suggests new beginnings, particularly within relationships. But that keyword of completion says there can be no new business until we deal with the old business. We need to resolve past patterns of relationships in order to be able to have the new beginnings we desire. Okay. So when I'm seeing this reversed, then that suggests to me perhaps recognize, yes, we are in this big big period of new beginnings. But focusing too much on the past right now is not necessarily going to be helpful to us. But at the same time, the more things change, the more they remain the same. And so there is perhaps a need to acknowledge what we can't complete right now. Not from this standpoint of like beating ourselves up over it, but perhaps from this place of the willingness to put certain things aside and say, you know what? Maybe I can't get the new beginning I desire on this thing just yet because there's a whole bunch of other stuff that is changing. And I need to assess how that's affecting me, how that is going to reshape my reality before I can complete this other thing. And so I don't feel like it's, an unkind card with regard to our desire for new beginnings. But perhaps it does say, hey, we're entering into Taurus season. It is a time to slow your roll a little. Okay. Yes, there's all this energy that's like, this Aries energy that tends to be very much go forward, go forward, go forward. But Taurus is like, okay, let's pace ourselves. Let's stop and enjoy the scenery a little. Let's, taste of some of the pleasures of life, even when we are struggling. That's actually a really key thing to remember, that there are good things for us to enjoy in life, even if they're not the things that we, are hoping to move toward. Okay. There are pleasures to be had, even if they don't look like what we hope for, or even if they don't look like what we're used to. Okay. This card it is still going to contain some new beginnings, even when it's reversed. But rushing forward in the hopes of things being better makes it harder for us to enjoy what is already here.
Thank you, both of you. That was great. Do either of you want to recap, for the Taurus season, anything that you said or some advice for people? No?
No.
Fine, fine. Okay, Joy, I'll let you tell about your slide here.
So yesterday I had something which we had to reschedule this, so that is no longer relevant. But however, we did this really cool element of element attributions in the court cards. And that video will be up on my YouTube probably sometime this week. I got about half of it edited today. And we're going to do a part 2. I usually spend 4 sessions on this, but I'm condensing it into 2. And so we will be revisiting this on May 16th. So if this is of interest to any of our viewers here, definitely still check out the meetup group, Greater Seattle Astrology Tarot Reiki Meetup, and you will see the part 2 session for May 16th. And then we have our ongoing tarot path working on the Tree of Life, and we're going to be doing the Path of Tav on May 2nd. And this is a kind of a cumulative experience of learning and practicing. And so you are welcome to join us for the Path of Tav, but you do want to go again to my YouTube channel and watch the videos for Malkut and for Yesod, so that you're caught up on the background information so that you can join us to walk the Path of Tav. So that's what I've got coming up there. And that's just for my website. I am, of course, like everybody else here, consulting astrologer, tarot reader. I'm a Reiki teacher. And so you can book appointments at joyvernon.com.
Simon?
So, as Liz mentioned earlier, I do write about astrology transits and a fair amount about the TNOs and centaurs on my Patreon page. I also do custom astrological art there for my patrons, and I do art based in the transits. So, the art and the writing kind of feed into each other there. I am also going to be doing tarot readings and some astrology readings as well at the P&W Witches Market that is coming up on May 3rd. So I have my live events are on my website, which is iconalchemy.com. And of course, like Liz and Joy, I am a consulting astrologer. And so if you wish to schedule a consultation, you can do that at my website as well.
And if you want to book a consultation with me, you can reach me at liz@alightpath.com. Sign up for my newsletter, subscribe and like our YouTube channel. And there's almost 200 episodes now on my YouTube channel, so there's lots to go back and look at. And there's 1 or 2 shows each week, so we look forward to having you join us in the future. And I want to thank our sponsor, Astro Peregrine Software, an astrology software for Mac and Windows. And to find out more information, you can go to astroperegrine.com. And I want to thank Joy and Simon for joining me today. It's been a pleasure as always. And I look forward to having you on again in the very near future. And it's time to say goodbye for now and see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.